Repeated flooding in a Perth community was the subject of an urgent public meeting this afternoon. Residents and businesses in the Craigie area of the city have faced huge bills after two major flooding events in as many years. There's concern locally that new housing developments might be a factor. At today's meeting, residents demanded action and said they want their fears to be taken seriously. Sean O'Neill reports.
Heavy rainfall saw the Craigie Burn in Perthshire burst its banks for the second time in 2 years. The water washed through the Cherrybank Inn and other householders were once again forced out of their homes by the torrent.
So it was up to, that sort of level, it was up to, my hip.
Janice Haig saw her insurance quadruple in price after she was forced to claim £35,000 for the damage to her home in 2020. Then the flood struck again.
It's not just the monetary effect, because obviously we've had, we had to replace belongings, but they can be replaced. It's the mental, it's the anxiety, it's the constant watching the weather to see if there's going to be rainfall. It's the looking out for flood warnings when your phone goes and it's a text message.
The clean-up is still ongoing here. Exceptional weather events do seem to be happening more across the country, but residents do wonder if new build housing estates are also a factor.
There's a number of new developments going up in the Broxton area of Perth, which impacts on the Craigie area too. And what we have are concerns about some of the drainage issues. And people are anecdotally telling us that there's experiencing difficulties in observing issues with this.
At Darnhall Tennis Club, the floodwaters destroyed one court and left them with a repair bill of £1,000. The club can cover the cost this time, but any repeat would leave it struggling.
The worry is that this is a repeated action. It's the second time in 2 years, and the worry that this will become a more frequent issue with the house building and the expected climate change.
At a public meeting this afternoon, residents raised their concerns. Until they get answers, flooding fears will continue to hang like a dark cloud over this community. Sean O'Neill, reporting Scotland, Perth.
People in Perth today had their first chance to view ambitious plans to have a golf course to make way for 200 homes. The 18-hole Craigie Hill Golf Club plans to sell off some of its land to developers for housing and a community hub. The course would scale back to 9 holes, making way for outdoor activities such as mountain biking and orienteering. The club, which was formed in 1911, is losing around £30,000 a year and says without change it won't survive.
The community hub part and all the sport angle is absolutely fine. We have no objections to any of that. But for us, the housing is the issue. This is an area that's on Greenbelt land, out with the settlement plan of this area on the local development plan. So we're just concerned about what happens with these houses, what will happen with flooding.
Residents in Perth affected by flooding say they shouldn't have to wait to have sewage and silt cleaned from public walkways. More than 8 inches of material overflowed from the Craigie Burn onto the public walkway close to South Inch Park last weekend. Those who live nearby say they've now been waiting nearly 4 days for the debris to be cleared away. Scottish Water say they have to prioritise customers affected by internal flooding, and their crews are due to start cleaning the area by the end of the week.
I think it is just that sort of environmental health issue. I mean, if you're walking while there's still water here, it is sewage water you're walking through. Your dogs are walking through it. They're maybe going in the burn and swimming once you've, sort of let them off the lead. So they are going through water that has sewage in it, and I just want to get that point across.
People living in a flood-hit area of Perth say more action is needed to safeguard their homes. A public meeting was held this afternoon to discuss a council study on the Craigie Burn. It concluded there's no option which will completely remove the risk of flooding, but officers say they have a clearer picture on how to manage it. It comes after a public path near South Inch Park was recently flooded with raw sewage.
We had big problems on the last one. We had 40 odd neighbours stranded in their houses for 4 days because we lost our pathway and footway going into the building. I've been to many meetings in the past, but I get this feeling that minutes are taken and hours are wasted. And that's my thoughts on a lot of meetings, especially with this one. You don't seem to be moving forward.
some things are being done, and I think that's as best as we could say just now. There's 2 options out of the 13 that were proposed that have been taken forward that cost us £310,000. A couple of significant culverts are going to be upgraded, which I think will significantly help some of the difficulties and problems. Now, is it enough? I don't know. I mean, we had a flooding episode here in Perth just last weekend in the heavy rains, and there was some distressing scenes of sewage getting caught up in some of the public waterways. So more needs to be done.
A survey asking Perth residents how they've been affected by flooding is being sent to more than 750 homes. It's being distributed by Perth Community Flood Aid, who say recent flood damage has left residents feeling helpless. They're asking how householders have been impacted financially and emotionally, along with what more needs to be done to help prevent further devastation.
On Saturday the 25th of November we have a public meeting just to find out how people have been affected by flooding, not just the actual monetary value but also mentally, just because mental health is such a big issue when it comes to flooding, and I don't think that gets as much promotion as it should. Tell us how they've been affected, where the worst areas are that have been affected, and just to say what they think we could do to help. And it's not a blame game, it's not to say this organisation or the council or whoever need to do more, it's to find out what we can do to help the community.